Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. As you can see in this special supplement, I am seriously salmon. As you watch this, I'm probably on Long Island watching the cover band warm up before the Blue Oyster Cult takes the field. And I say the cover band because I'm seeing the latest iteration of Jefferson's Starship before the BOC with no original members. That said, I've got a great slate for you tonight. Remember, we are now Watchbox, and thewatchbox.com is our new homepage. Faster, easier to use, and more fun all over. Our new website, when you're ready to sell your watch, is the place to go. Whether buying or selling, we love both, and we make trades easy. So check out our new website, thewatchbox.com. Open it in a separate window. Keep this tab open. Good stuff? Let's talk about wrist shots. Real quick, I've got my Jaeger LeCoultre Grand Memovox, and just as I've done a wrist shot, I may as well do a wristwatch sound off real quick. Quite enough of that. All right, so what's different about the Watchbox? Well, let me just focus on a few quick changes, and then we're going to hit the golden rectangle. So Watchbox integrates our industry-leading video. You see it here. You watch my watch reviews on Watchbox Watch Reviews, but it also integrates our app, now a viewer and also a value tracker. It makes the interaction with our thewatchbox.com website that much easier. Buy, sell, trade, check the value of one watch in your collection or the whole collection in aggregate. It's also a media viewer for your favorite news, views, and reviews you can use. Websites, blogs, and video, all in one. Now, you can use the Watchbox feature to store your entire collection to better manage your watches, keep track of them, what they're worth when the time comes to exchange perhaps a faded love for a new flame. That's Watchbox. The Watchbox app, thewatchbox.com. And finally, I want to remind you that for everything from entertainment to pre-owned watch buying, trading, and selling, call my friend Jason, call my friend Josh. We've got a whole sales floor listening to their phones 7/24. That said, today's topic, the golden rectangle. So this is the golden rectangle of economic ecosystem etiquette. We are talking about the doctor's practice, the law firm, the hedge fund, and Silicon Valley. What to wear and why in all of them. I can see the doctor's practice is up first. So let's talk about what matters at the doctor's practice. Discretion is advised. Now, traditionally, this is going back to American automobile orthodoxy, the MD buys a Buick even though he can afford a Cadillac. And if you're of the European persuasion, an Alfa Romeo rather than a Ferrari. But here's the idea. The doctor doesn't want to tell his clients that he's making a killing off of them, even if he is. So he needs something that flies below the radar, even if it's below his absolute economic ceiling. So I would suggest, first of all, something like the Lange pulsometer chronograph. Why? Because you could argue to your clients, well, you need it. When you're taking the pulse by hand, nothing beats a pulsometric scale on a luxury watch for practicality. Still useful for those with pencil wrists like me. I know all the time the sphygmomanometer that tries to measure my blood pressure fails to get purchase on my arm because I'm just too thin. You can make that excuse with the Longines, and for $4,300, it'll leave money for your Hublot Big Bang or King Power to wear on the weekend. Now here's the other thing. You can wear a grand watch, you just have to go a little bit off the beaten path, beyond the mainstream. And that's why something like the Nomos Lambda Tiefblau comes in handy. Nomos, a brand we love, low-key, all their design is very hip out of Berlin, which is kind of like the, I would say almost like the hipster center of Germany these days, how things change from the era of the Hohenzollern Empire. But the bottom line is that this watch, 42 millimeters in white gold with an 84-hour manually wound power reserve and that gorgeous dark blue grained dial, is going to let you spend $20,000 and own the good stuff without tipping off the pro baller from which you are siphoning bone chips. Don't let him know you're pulling $20,000 out of his kneecap. You can wear it with discretion thanks to Nomos. All right. Finally, true vintage is an option for the MD who wants to fly below the radar. Because when it comes to vintage, watch nerds know, but the Gen Pop doesn't have a clue. $25,000 Jaeger LeCoultre Polaris diving alarm? You can get away with it. Trust me, not even an X-ray can see through this, guys. All right. Moving from the doctor's practice to the law firm. Okay, the law firm, my first job out of college. I was a paralegal in securitization law, and in the roughly 3 years that we did this, we blew up the world. So there was that. And that kind of reinforces the notion that the only thing firm in a law firm is the notion of hierarchy. So competition and scrutiny are omnipresent, from the intern, who's probably a second-year law student, right up to the level of the partner, who's a non-equity partner and trying to make that last step up the ladder. You know you're always under observation, and you don't want to speak to misplaced priorities by showing too much wealth right off the bat. So here's how it works. Just like in my military service, don't be like that E2, that guy right out of boot camp who shows up one day and parks next to the captain driving this. Don't be that guy. Keep in mind, if the partner wears a Cosmograph Daytona, then the special counsel is going to wear a Submariner. And if the special counsel wears a Sub, then the first-year associate wears a Milgauss. It's that simple. Also, important to remember, you can just confound them all and wear a Jaeger LeCoultre Reverso. The first time I ever actually saw a Reverso on someone's wrist was in the cafeteria of a law firm. I was amazed by the watch because it was so different than the Breitlings, Omegas, and Rolexes that everyone else was wearing. Orthodoxy generally reigns at the law firm. They won't know what that weird rectangular watch is, and when you flip it over and cloak the dial, and they're just looking at the steel sheath, they're going to be absolutely befuddled. They're more likely to guess smartwatch than handmade luxury. Okay, the hedge fund. Now, of course, when I was in white shoe law, we were right down the street in Manhattan from many hedge funds. And of course, they're relentlessly driven by huge financial conquests in a traditional New York, London, Frankfurt, or Singapore paradigm, which means standard bearers of excess rule at the hedge fund. No one's afraid of flaunting wealth, but they don't want to go too far beyond the pale of familiar blue-chip brand names to show their status, which is why an epic Rolex might pass muster. Bust out that platinum Daytona and show them who is boss. $75,000 gets you started at the partner level in a hedge fund. Half a pound of platinum on your wrist and the Rolex crown? That's a viable answer, but I will say this. A trophy-level vintage prize would hit the mark as well. CK2915 first-gen Omega Speedmaster, now a $250,000 watch as of this November. So this is the thing. The requisite status envy might be lacking just because your coworkers might not get the vintage scene. So go for the brass ring, or should I say solid platinum, with a Patek Philippe Grand Complication. Now, I can say from experience, this is what folks operating hedge funds actually do wear. Not going to name names, but you know who you are if you're watching. Patek Philippe 5207 Tourbillon Instantaneous Perpetual Calendar Minute Repeater. It also has gorgeous obsidian mahogany inlays on the flank. Absolutely beautiful watch. And if you run a hedge fund as an equity partner, you owe it to yourself to try. But here's the thing. From the United States East Coast and New York Towers to the West Coast and the Valley, Silicon Valley that is, and in Silicon Valley, anything goes. There's a progressive mentality, but emotional preferences run to extremes. Now, Silicon Valley office environments and status hierarchies are anything but bashful. Consider Larry Ellison's first yacht. That's the small one. Or Steve Jobs' yacht. It's like a floating iPhone. And his car. And his jet. You get the picture? It's okay to flaunt wealth, but you got to do it with flair. And there are two different schools of thought in the Silicon Valley workplace. First is the horological avant-garde. I'm talking an Lange Sohne Zeitwerk, digital jumping hours, tens of minutes and minutes. This is the Lange for the guy who thinks a little bit different, marches to the beat of a different drummer, and or owns his own tech company. Now, if you just sold your startup and set it on fire, you might know what I'm talking about, Kevin Rose. But the bottom line is this is exactly the kind of old world watchmaking that Silicon Valley loves. I'll also say that in the same vein, but even more progressive and out there, something like an Urwerk UR210, not just wandering hours, but rotating indices. If you want a watch that looks like a robot, and you don't want to go with an azimuth, and you want to spend big money, $100,000 to $120,000 US is going to buy you a UR210, and it's a perfect choice if you want to go avant-garde. But here's the thing. As Silicon Valley moguls begin to understand just how much of their purchase on this world and contribution to the culture is passing and disposable, reaction formation sets in. Which is to say, a lot of them go for the exact opposite of what you would expect. So can the Zeitwerk and the Urwerk maybe this is the place to go all Lange and Heine. That's right, something like the Jaeger, the 2017 debut, their first shaped caliber and shaped watch. When you want the oldest of old world bespoke watchmaking, something that will outlast your phone, you, your Apple Watch, your startup, and every questionable app you launch. That's where Lange & Heine comes in. Marco Lange has got your number. Silicon Valley, answer the phone, answer the call. Go old school, go Lange & Heine. Or just forget everything I just said and go with whatever suits you. But remember to get it at thewatchbox.com, our all-new website and the best way to buy, sell, or trade luxury watches. I'm Tim. This is The Watchbox. The weekend begins, and thanks for logging on.